Hi, Eli and Maddie. Daddy here. It's swelteringly hot today. It's been a real scorcher, and I've just got back from a good full day with the kids in the park, playing frisbee and badminton and reading and talking about Tintin and all these kind of fun things. Wished you'd have been there. That would have made it even nicer, but it was a lovely day anyway. So I'm back now, and I thought I'd today tell you a couple more bonkers performance stories from my professional musical life. So yes, I was booked to come and record the tenor part in a video game session for a Game of Thrones. I've never read or watched any of Game of Thrones. I'm vaguely aware of what it's about. It's a kind of swords and sandals and dragons type show with rather a lot of sex thrown in. And I happen to adore Emilia Clarke, particularly her wonderful eyebrows. But as I said, I haven't watched any. The main cast, are rumoured to be on something like £50,000 per day. So I didn't feel particularly bad taking just under £1,000 for a couple of hours recording a tenor part for a video game, which I would never play. But anyway, they're nice work if you can get them, video games, adverts, that kind of thing. Done a few. Anyway, so I get there and yeah, so they don't send you the music beforehand. You are essentially a session musician. You're expected to turn up, perform it, record it. That's it. Done. And that's what we do. And that's fine. It always works that way. So I get there, but I had basically looked up one of the other video games in the series, and the music was a very big kind of Communiburesque, brass heavy choral type pagan idolatry kind of thing. So I was vaguely expecting that kind of thing. So I turn up and there's three people, of which I am one, in the recording studio. I'm like, well, how is this going to work? Turns out the lady who was her soprano was recording all the soprano parts. So when you hear the full choral version, she is every one of those 21 odd soprano parts. I am every one of the tenor parts, of which there are, I think, 16. And then the other guy, you're thinking soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Why is there only three? This guy was recording all the mezzo soprano parts as a male alto and recording all the bass parts. And he wasn't getting paid double for this. He was getting one fee. But that's kind of just one of the bizarre things which happens. So yes, a quick story from my Epoch performing days, tours, if you like. And this one concerns a soprano who is sort of their in-house go-to person. I mean, she's very reliable. She's great. She knows all the stuff. And unless there's some reason she really can't do it, she always goes out of her way to try and make it, because they are a great company. In fact, one of the tours we did was when she was heavily pregnant with her second child, and I felt bad because she had to drive us everywhere. But anyway, yeah, so the first time I met her, now we know each other very well and we've worked together many, many times. The first time I ever met her, I thought she was a very strange person. I thought her attitude was very odd. She was relating to me in a very, very strange way. Anyway, then about 3 weeks after this, I found myself going to her house together with other members of the company to rehearse. And I realised why she'd sort of been acting a little oddly when her husband opened the door, and her husband was the spitting image of me. Maybe he looked slightly younger and maybe a tiny bit taller. But yeah, I mean, we looked at each other and went, whoa, this is rather, rather strange. That doesn't happen very often. I've met a couple of people who look like me, but not that much. That was quite strange. So I realised why she must have been feeling totally creeped out by me in a rehearsal, just as I was kind of creeped out by the way that she was behaving. But anyway, it all turned out sweetly in the end. Just a bit of one of those bonkers stories. And then I was performing the very first time I ever performed the wonderful L'Improviso from Act 1 of Andrea Chenier. It's one of these monumental arias. I've now since recorded it and I've sung the role. It's one of these dream tenor parts. 3 massive arias, 2 enormous duets. sword fights. But it's wonderful. It's one of the it's just a dream tenor part. Beautifully written, glorious high notes, fabulous stuff. And he's the hero, and he dies at the end. It's great. And he has dell'improviso in Act One, and it's about 5+ minutes for an aria. It's very, very long and very, very big. And the first time I did it, obviously I did it with piano, as you always do in a recital. You essay the famous parts of the role, and then a few months down the line, you end up doing it with the repetiteur in the opera house, and then with the orchestra, and you perform it as a role in costume. Anyway, so this was the very first time I'd ever sung it in public, and I hadn't really sung it that much in private either. But I loved the opera, and I grew up with the old Domingo Anatomawa Cinto, Giorgio Zancanaro recording from the Royal Opera back in the 70s, I think it was, when all three were in fabulous voice. Because it wasn't a role. I mean, it's quite a high-lying role, so it obviously wasn't one that particularly suited Domingo, but he did do a fairly good fist of it. Anyway, there's this moment in the middle of it where you sing with the horns, and you go, "Oh no, vi caluniava, peste mi Anderson," and it's this fabulous, great big, shouty verismo moment. And I was sort of in this kind of low stage area. The ceiling was not very high above me. It was a club down in London's West End. And so intimate space, very nice, but a good place to do recitals and try out all new material without any particular pressure on you, to have to perform absolutely note perfectly. So anyway, my friends Lenny and the composer Barney Hollington and a few other people are in the front row. And when you're very, very focused in your performance, you don't really... You're aware what's going on around you, but you're not fully relating to it. There's a part of you that's in the zone. Anyway, so as I sing this, "Oh no, I push my hand in the yellow. "Oh no, I thought it was very dramatic. It was a great moment. I kind of my eyes drift to the front row, and I see my friends giggling. I don't feel anything at all, but I become aware as I kind of glance down towards the end of the aria. There's a large bit of plaster on the floor. I'm thinking, what's going on? Then by the time it finishes and the applause is going on, I realise I punched a hole in the ceiling above me. Still didn't feel a thing, but then went off, and in the wings I bump into the next two singers who were going on, who's a baritone called James and a soprano called Sharon. And I swear, the second I got off stage, took about 5 seconds to walk off the stage. The minute I got off and saw the singers, and they were both kind of nodding, going, "Yeah, we saw that." But the second I got off, I went, "Oh!" And the pain flooded in. So yeah, some more bonkers performance stories and more tomorrow. I'm just cooking some chicken, so I'm going to go and enjoy that now with some garlic and what else? And veg and and a cucumber mint dip. So, speak to you again soon, and Daddy loves you always. Mwah.